and good to see you all. Thank you very much for attending the Finance Resources and Corporate Committee. And whilst it sometimes seems a dry committee, it's a really exciting part of the organisation because it's about keeping checks and balances on us and what we deliver for the people of West Yorkshire. So Sarah, any apologies?
We have apologies from Councillor Susan Hinchcliffe, Councillor Jane Scullion, but Councillor Dacre is attending as her substitute. Councillor Jeffrey, but Councillor Morley is attending as her substitute, and Mandy Reed.
Thank you so much, and we send good wishes to Mandy, who apparently is under the weather. If I may say as well, colleagues, that I have another meeting, so I hope to finish at 12:15. I hope that suits everyone. Firstly, can I extend a very, very warm welcome to Councillor Sylvia Dacre from Calderdale, subbing for Councillor Scullion. And I just want to give you that very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us. Moving on, item 2, any members have any interest they wish to declare on any item in the agenda? No, thank you so much. Item 3, I understand there are no items on the agenda requiring exclusion of press and public. Very good. And item 4, minutes of the meeting held the 6th of February 2024. Turning to those minutes of the FRCC meeting, any comments or questions? No, thank you so much. Are we content to confirm these minutes as an accurate record? We are, thank you very much. So, item 5, I'll be coming to Alan on this. I'm pleased to introduce this report, which gives us a comprehensive overview of our corporate and financial performance, as well as outlining recommendations for refining future reporting arrangements. And it gives us insights into our current corporate and financial performance, focusing on financial monitoring, project delivery against corporate objectives, and progress towards our strategic missions outlined in the West Yorkshire Plan, which you will know was developed with our 5 partners with a vision for 2040. It also highlights our achievements and areas of improvement in meeting our corporate objectives. So I'd like to hand over to Alan Rees, our Chief Operating Officer, to talk in more detail about the overall performance, and then to Angela Taylor, Financial and Commercial Director, to talk through the finances. Thank you. Alan.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So the paper sets out everything that we do in this organisation flows from the West Yorkshire Plan, which sets out the overall missions that the Combined Authority, the Mayor, leaders, partners have agreed we want to achieve by 2040. And then we have a corporate plan that sits underneath that. And this report is about the performance of the organisation against the objectives that have been agreed by the CA. So it's not directly about the economic, social and environmental performance of the region as a whole. We report that through the annual State of the Region report. This is about the organisation and how well it is doing against the objectives that it set itself for the year. And this report goes up to the end of quarter 3, so the end of December 2023. The material for this report is used very widely internally. It's used by senior management teams and directorate management teams to assess progress and identify and rectify areas of slippage. So the overall position, without going into kind of every single item that's within it, across the entirety of the organisation, there are 284 objectives set for the year, each one of which relates to one of the organisation's corporate objectives. And for each one of those, a RAB rating is given. And what we then do is we look across all of them to assess the extent to which we are on track to achieve what we've set out to do against each of those headline objectives. And I'm pleased to say that overall, it paints a really positive picture. And there are some really standout examples of good delivery coming up to the end of quarter 3, such as Halifax bus station opening with the final phase 4 to be delivered by the end of February, introduction of Mayor's Question Time, delivery beginning of You Can Make It Here, exceeding our target around retrofit of homes, increase in M-card sales, and so on. And it's worth noting as well that at the CA next week, which meets on Thursday, for which the papers were published last night, there is the culmination of huge amounts of work over the last 3 years. So, for instance, the advice to the Combined Authority around decision about the future of the bus market, the submission of a business case on mass transit to government, the publication of the housing strategy, the next stages of work on the economic strategy and the rail strategy and the local transport plan and our corporate plan for next year. So this is all within the context of that meeting happening next week, where there's a huge amount coming to fruition. And I'll draw attention, having talked about some of the positives, I will draw the committee's attention to some of the things that are a bit redder. So of the 27 outcomes, which is just under 10% of the total, which are rated red, only 5 of them are directly about external delivery. The rest relate to some internal programs, and most of them are to do with delays, and it's not that the work's not happening, it's just that it's behind schedule and work will be rolled on to the coming year. It's often related to resourcing challenges, which is common across the whole of local government, both budgetary and in terms of personnel. And that then feeds our corporate risks, which are reported to the Governance and Audit Committee, which happens to meet this afternoon. So, for instance, there are a number of risks around technology, and we have cybersecurity as a very high-rated risk on our corporate risk register. So that all flows through. The final thing I wanted to say before I hand over to Angela to talk about finance, the finance update in here, was just around efficiency and productivity. So particularly with the unprecedented pressure on local government finance, it's absolutely crucial that the combined authority demonstrates value for money publicly, and also that we understand and can identify areas for improvement in our processes internally. So wanted to flag for the committee that we're currently developing a dashboard of productivity and efficiency measures, which we will use internally and publish externally, and we propose to bring that to future meetings of the committee. So in a moment, very happy to take any questions or points from members, but if I could just ask Angela to introduce the section on finance, please.
Thank you. Just before you do, I mean, it is true there are some very good news stories in here, particularly how we've been able, with devolution, to ensure that the opportunities are targeted at particularly women, particularly entrepreneurs and communities that are diverse. And I am proud that our social housing decarb fund today is the 3rd best performing fund nationally, because if we're going to hit our net zero target by 2038, retrofit has got to be a priority, so that is a good news story. I wonder, just before I move on to Angela, if you could just talk us through, you mentioned cybersecurity, the mitigations have been put in place to make sure that that doesn't stay as one of our biggest threats. Is there anything that you can tell us to reassure us?
Yes, absolutely. So as I said, the cybersecurity is currently rated very high on our risk register. The organisation was subject to what's called a distributed denial of service attack in the autumn, where West Yorkshire Metro website went down for a week. If that were to happen today, there are now mitigations in place, which means that it would be back up within a matter of hours. So and indeed there have been subsequent attacks. So there's a set of mitigations that have been put in place to help handle the impact of cybersecurity attacks. We have commissioned what's called a security operations centre, which gives us earlier warning and earlier notice where there's an attack, which then helps us to identify what needs to be done in order to resolve it. And we are also procuring some external support to help us with a range of software updates. It's what's called a patching partner, which is essentially where there are vulnerabilities in our systems and we need some external support to help to resolve those. So there is an action plan which is shared with Governance and Audit Committee, and which sets out what the key mitigations are. And we also appointed in November a new cybersecurity manager who's come in and had a fresh look at what we've been doing and is implementing new ideas around how we can become more secure.
Thank you, that's helpful. Angela.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is the regular finance update. I think because of the timing of this meeting, you've ended up with a double set of information just for completeness. So at the end of December, we did our Q3 review against the sort of historic spend to date. and you've got the information in the paper that says that there was nothing identified during that Q3 review that was of any concern. However, at the same time, in parallel, we were bringing forward the budget paper for early February, and so we're doing some work recasting this year's budget in the light of some of the information coming through in the budget work. So 2 pieces of work in parallel. When we came to the February meeting of the Combined Authority, we set the revised outturn for the year with a small, expecting a small overspend. Where we are now with the more up-to-date information is we're looking at potentially a small surplus. These are very small figures in the big scheme of things. We're talking about less than 0.5% of shift in that time scale. So there have been some savings on predominantly some of the staffing vacancies as they've been more accurately forecast as time goes by. And obviously we continue to look to find savings where we can across the piece. And it is that time of year where we are scrutinising those bits of money that aren't spent and making sure we're trying to put those to one side to feed into next year. There's clearly still pressures that were set out in the budget that we're still working through, and there'll be quite a review going on of the budget taking us into the summer following a number of things taking place over the next few months. The paper also sets out the capital position and presents that against the revised forecast that we agreed in February at the Combined Authority. As ever, Q4 is usually a period of higher spend. We also put through accruals at the year end, which we don't always do during the year, so we do tend to find the Q4 figure spikes. So we are on track, we believe, to spend the forecast just over £312 million on capital this year. That figure then increases next year as we move into delivery on quite a range of projects. So happy to take any questions on any of that. We will be looking at the format of this reporting in the new financial year, so this is finishing the current year. We are looking to bring some more integrated reporting out of the new system, which I'll touch on later. So this will change as we move into reporting in the new financial year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Open this up for discussion. Yes, Sylvia, and then Jocelyn. Oh, I didn't see you there, Cathy. Sylvia.
Thanks. This is on both everything that's been said so far. So, just in relation, won't be any surprise that I'm going to pick up on the Halifax bus station. Sorry, to be predictable, but unfortunately, there was a lot of chaos there earlier in the week with buses at the wrong stations, people getting on the wrong buses, people missing buses because they weren't in the right place. And so although it's kind of open, we don't want any focus to be lost on making sure all the rest of the work that isn't yet complete, and you refer to the chapel and all of that there's still a focus on that, and it's properly open shortly and fully functioning. I mean, I appreciate there's bound to be teething problems, but just to keep an eye on that. The other, just wanted to say that I did meet somebody in Todmorden the other day who had benefited from startup support. They didn't, unfortunately, fit into any of the categories that we're particularly trying to address, in that he was a middle-aged male, but he was absolutely delighted with the support he'd received, thought it was really good. He's worked in the private sector all his life, but was striking out on his own, and he couldn't speak highly enough of the understanding of the challenges he faced. So that was nice, and I wanted to feed that back. And just lastly, I've not been here to this before, so I wasn't there last year or in past years when you've been looking at the spending throughout the quarters, but you have got a big spike in spending that you need to catch up with your forecast. So it's really quite big, but you're saying you're satisfied that actually, nevertheless, on past expectations, you would think that that's possible.
Thank you so much. Alan, if you want to talk about the snagging issues at Halifax, and then Angela.
I completely accept that it was we were able to open the station, but not when it was entirely complete, and there have been some snagging issues with it. I know that colleagues are working on it intensely with partners in Calderdale, and looking forward to it being open. My understanding is that it will be resolved in the next few weeks.
Hope so.
I'm very proud of Halifax bus station. It is really lovely, and I can't wait for it to be fully open. And that green roof is something I talk about a lot, because our ambition, government tried to hold us back on our ambition, and we went ahead, and it's going to be absolutely lovely. And all the apprentices that helped with that green roof, I think there's something to be incredibly proud of. So Angela, regarding the spike.
Yes, it does. We can show that pattern every year, and it comes from everybody. The programmes we're delivering some are being delivered through Combined Authority, some are being delivered through local authority partners. So the forecasts are based on what partners have assured us and what our internal teams have assured us. And as I say, some of it is a quirk of it. At year end, we do focus more on ensuring we accrue work that has been done and not invoiced, which we don't do in quarters 1, 2 and 3. So you tend to find 4 does go up measurably. Quarter 1 is then quite light as the invoicing comes in relating to the year before. But do feel free to call us out in it when we come back next time with the final figures for the year. But I think we're quite confident we should be close on to the 312.
Thank you. Jocelyn.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate officers and staff on their tight cost control in quarter 3, because that's really impressive. But we'll see what happens in quarter 4. A specific question I have on the capital budget, though, is about housing. And I know that there have been a lot of challenges in achieving any house building, but are we saying in these numbers that none of the £15 million budgeted will be spent by the end of the year?
Angela.
Thank you. Let me just check the figures. We are on the. Are you talking about the brownfield housing? So the forecast is that it should be spent. What we're saying up to quarter 3, you're correct. None has been spent at that point. There has been quite a flurry of approvals for some of these projects in the last couple of months. So what we often find is these things take a long time to come along, to get the work done, to get the business case established. Once the approval is given, they're ready to hit the ground and there are contracts ready to be let. So we'll be watching closely, but we have been assured that we should be getting spending on the brownfield housing. It has another year to run beyond this. It has been discussed at this and other committees. It is a challenging target that has been set on sites that are notoriously difficult to deliver on, which is why we are stepping into that space. But yes, again, we'll come back in June with a full set of figures against those February forecasts.
Also, just for context, Jocelyn, that there was a second tranche of brownfield funding came from government with the same deadline as the previous tranche. So we went out for a second time to developers to try and get more interest. And actually, that second call out really did deliver. But as always is the case, we are dependent on government red tape and deadlines. And in this market, it has been quite challenging. My target was 5,000 affordable homes, and it has been really tough with COVID, with Brexit, with the way the economy was tanked and rapid inflation. However, I think there's a good news story to tell, actually, that 25% of all our housing, since I've become mayor, it's been affordable, and that's more than Greater Manchester and West Midlands, and they've got trailblazer deals that actually support them in their ambitions around affordable housing, and more housing than since the economic crash. So I do think it has been incredibly challenging, not only notwithstanding government deadlines, but also the economic landscape. But I think that focus has enabled us to also draw together, and it was a real privilege for me to have our housing associations come together and say, we want to work collectively across West Yorkshire to help you deliver. That's the first time that's happened. And then I think that helped us get the first ever strategic partnership with Homes England that will unlock 40,000 homes. And then we've had our first ever meeting of developers who understand that now actually we're a place to do business where we are getting building. But I feel like you, that we are desperate for affordable housing in our region, and being able to visit a site that has homes that are now open for families in Linthwaite, lovely area of West Yorkshire, where a family who'd been made homeless by no fault eviction from their landlord, and now them and their little kids, and she was having a baby, will have a decent life because of the work that we're doing. And trying to always remember why we're doing this. You know, we sit in meetings all the time, don't we, and, you know, talk about money and projects, but actually it's about people's lives being made better. But I am with you that we need to spend every single penny of that money. And in every meeting I have, it's like, we cannot have an underspend. We cannot be giving money back to the government. We need every penny spent. But thank you for that question. Kathy.
Yeah, I'd like to thank officers for a very comprehensive report. It's been really good to see where we're up to at the end of Q3, particularly in the financial position. I think you've already alluded to the fact there's been a lot of external, implications that's impacted on delivery. So, and I think the markets are driven by that at the moment, so costs as well. So on the housing, I understand that. I think a lot of variance in the projects. It's set out in 1.13 about Bradford Interchange, so that's been an impact. They've had an impact, and financial variances in 1.9 are projects that are in impacts have been because of individuals, their variances rather than yours. So I think it's still a good news story. I like the fact that in 1.7 that you're actually publicising the dashboard. That's exciting actually, because it enhances our transparency out there for the general public. So all in all, I'm happy to endorse this because I think it's shown some really, really good progress despite the market challenges.
Thank you. If I may just raise one item that I think we could definitely focus on going forward, International Trade Portal to achieve 1,000 hits per month. It's in the first stages of development, and those technical issues we need to get over that, because we want to be a region that is open for international trade and investment. And certainly coming out of Convention of the North last week, that was hugely successful, was that determination to work as the North on investable propositions across the North, and to be somewhere that trade and we can gather trade and investment opportunities. And I think that could be something that we could maybe focus on in the next few months going forward. Thank you so much. Okie doke. So we are happy to approve this item. Lovely, thank you. So moving on to finance and corporate performance, item 5. Workforce HR management. Thank you. Right. Item 6. So pleased to present this report, update on the data concerning our workforce, and it highlights areas of strong performance and potential areas of risk. When I became mayor, I was very keen to ensure that we become the most progressive mayoral combined authority in the country, that we become an organisation that people desperately want to work for. And can I just say, Connor, welcome as a new colleague, that we want to make sure that we really do fly the flag for inclusivity as well, particularly in our recruitment. So I wonder if I could go to you, Alan, in the first instance.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. So this report is a bit is shorter than last time. So at the last meeting in January, we provided the committee with a pretty comprehensive report around workforce development, alongside the publication of the 2 pay gap reports for ethnicity and gender. And so therefore, we haven't repeated all of that information here. This is more of an interim update on the latest workforce data. There are 3 or 4 things I want to pull out of it. The first is, for transparency, is that there's been a slight uptick in time lost to sickness. So it is in line with the sector. So it's in line with local government. There are a number of reasons for it. We think potentially seasonal. Last autumn with various bugs going around. But secondly, because we've introduced our we've introduced some new systems which make it easier and better to report. So that's partly why we may have seen an increase. The second thing is, as an organisation, we are becoming more representative of the communities that we serve. So we know we have a long way to go, and in particular, there are a range of programmes that we have which are aimed at increasing diversity across the workforce as a whole, but also at more senior levels. But in particular, in terms of applicants and in terms of people coming into the organisation, those stats show that we are becoming more in line with the communities that we serve. The next thing is, there's an interesting stat, which is that in terms of vacancy fulfilment, so how we're filling vacancies in the organisation, it's roughly 50% internal, 50% external, which I look on as a positive because it means that we are both providing opportunities for people internally to progress and develop their careers, and at the same time we're bringing in talent from outside the organisation, and so it's a nice mix to have. And then the final thing I'll say, because it's not mentioned in the report, is that we did receive a nomination for Inclusive Employer of the Year from a company called Verkida, which is the diverse recruitment platform that we use. We sadly lost out at the final stage to the British Library, but I thought that was worth raising with the committee. So really happy to take any questions on any of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One thing that I was looking at that is a bit troubling, how long it takes us to recruit.
Absolutely.
Why is that, Alan?
Okay, so it takes 177 days on average to recruit somebody from the point at which the post is approved to the point at which somebody starts in post. So there are a number of unavoidable pieces of time in that. So for instance, somebody's notice period. If somebody is on a 3-month notice period, that's 90 days straight off the bat, right? So that's part of it. There is then the period where you're out for advert. So if you go out for a month, that's another 28 days on top. So you're at 100 days without trying very hard. But there are some things we could do, and this is back to the point around efficiency and productivity. This is one of the stats that we are going to include because we think it can be brought down, and in particular there are some timescales which are in our control to reduce. So for example, making sure that when applications come in, managers are shortlisting quickly, getting back to candidates, scheduling the interviews ahead of time so that we're not scrabbling around for dates. There are a set of things that we could do. However, what it also tells you is that even where we've got vacancies in priority areas of work, the solution won't always be to go out to market. Because given that we know it takes 6 months to recruit somebody to get them starting, well, there are lots of pieces of work which aren't going to wait for 6 months, plus the time for those people to get up to speed. So as an organisation, we are moving towards a position where we're able to redeploy people more easily around the organisation and respond and be more. Say we've got a priority over here, we haven't got time to recruit, so let's get better at being flexible and more agile in terms of how we can move people around. So my point is that there are two responses to that stat. One is try and reduce it, and the other is accept the fact that it does take a long time to recruit people and explore other ways of filling gaps within the organisation.
I do understand the challenge, but I'm not convinced that everybody's on a 3-month 3 months notice period. So I'm hoping we can get that down. Mm-hmm. One good thing about level 4 devolution is that we will have less of the siloed single projects where people are only allowed to do that. They're recruited through that particular budget, therefore only allowed to do that piece of work, that we can use our workforce more creatively between projects. But I think that's a good challenge for us, and I'm sure we can get there. So any comments on workforce? Yes, Sylvia.
Thank you. Just further to what you were saying, Alan, there's big differences between the directorates, aren't there, which is presumably one of the things that you'd be working on as well, in how they're managing some of those time periods. So you'd hope that next year it'll come back and they'll all be much more similar. Or there'll be an explanation as to why particular posts are particularly problematic.
Part of some of the issue in police and crime particularly is vetting. So if you're in my team, whilst you're not directly in police and crime, you will, because I'm the police and crime commissioner, you also have to be police vetted. So there's a lot of challenges there, not necessarily about the candidate, but maybe their family or whatever that might hold up some of those approvals. But I'm with you, Sylvia. We could do this surely a more even across the organisation. Okie doke. Yes, Kathy.
It's just a general comment. It's a very informative report. It's nice to see that you're actually drilling down into areas that you don't normally see. So yeah, I just appreciate the work and effort that's gone into it.
Thank you. And I think the staff networks that we've established have also been really helpful in making us more of an attractive organisation for many people who, you know, maybe don't necessarily see themselves reflected in a workforce. Any further comments? Happy to recommend this. Thank you so much. Lovely. So moving on to integrated corporate systems. This is an update on the progress of the implementation of the integrated corporate systems project, which helps integrate finance, HR and payroll into one single cohesive platform. And we know these big digital implementations are often come with a number of snags. And it has been, a long time coming to get us to this point. But I'm pleased to say that now colleagues are underway with this. But Angela, over to you for the detail.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. We brought you a paper last year explaining what we were doing and why, and so felt it was right to bring you a paper saying we have now done what we set out to do, to an extent. As the paper says, we went live in November with the finance and payroll module and a limited part of HR. The rest of the HR followed in January, so we are now live on the full system, subject to certain elements that we can add to it in the future. And in particular, we have a module on talent and development that we are bringing online later this year that will help support in terms of the recruitment, in terms of identifying how we help people progress through the organisation and help with some of the information you've seen in the previous report. It is a huge project. From beginning to end, we started this some time ago, but the implementation has probably taken us best part of 2 years. But it is a huge system. It replaces HR, finance, the procurement system, payroll, and it's all in one place. It's a modern, more intuitive, cloud-based system, and everybody is using it. And we've done a lot of training with people. We've done a lot in the form of user guides, there's drop-in sessions, and everyone is using it because it has HR. So everyone is using it to book their annual leave, for example. We've got recruitment going through that, so we now have an end-to-end product for recruitment rather than it being lots of people doing stuff outside of systems on bits of paper, electronic paper, and emailing things back and forwards. On the finance side, we have historically, including this year, we have done our budgeting on spreadsheets. We've now got all the budgets moved into CI anyway, so we can now, going forward, actually get them out of the system in a much more agile way. As we grow bigger as an organisation, as there are more choices, as there are more priorities, as there are competing pressures, it will enable us to bring better quality information more readily to decision makers, and you will hopefully see the fruits of that over the coming year. We are ending our reporting of the year under the old system, but setting everything up from April to come out of the new system. So we will have, for the first time, HR data, capital and revenue finance information, some of our purchasing information all in the one system, which we have not had before. Hence, you've got lots of bits of reports drawn from different sources. So we will be working on that. I think it's also worth noting it's a very live system. The providers, Technology One, do 2 annual updates. They have a very active community and user group where we can put forward our thoughts on how it could be improved. We have access to some ongoing support to make changes to it as we need it, and we have put together arrangements to both formally close the project down with a full lessons learned and project closure report, and we've also set up arrangements to manage it going forward, because This is not a system that just sits there and trundles on. We want to actively manage it, actively use it. If people are saying this bit doesn't work for me, okay, how do we change it and make sure it does work for you? We are trying to get away from people needing to keep separate records in the background. Oh, the finance system doesn't do this for me, so I've got my own spreadsheet. No, we need to build that into the system for people. So there's a very active approach to how we make best use of the system and make the most of the investment we have put into it. So hopefully you will see that coming through over the coming year as we can hopefully bring more integrated reporting to you. And when you ask for something, instead of it taking us some time to go away and redo it and represent it, we can do it in a much more flexible, quick, agile way, which is what we need. The world is moving fast around us and we need to keep pace with it. So happy to have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela, can you reassure me that people who find workarounds will be encouraged to not have a workaround, but will come and find a proper solution?
That is absolutely the messaging we're putting out. We're looking at how we encourage people to do that, and we've had some drop-in sessions already, and we're very much saying, come and talk to us. Do not set up something different. It has to be in the system, because then everybody can access it, everybody can get the information, and we have one version of the truth. We don't have that team says that and this team says the other. We all are saying the same thing. So we have great hopes and really looking forward to using the system once we've finalise all the last bits of snagging with it, but it is pretty much working. We did payroll on it within 3 weeks of go live. We've paid suppliers, we've raised POs, we've raised debtor invoices. We have done all the transactions on it, so it is properly in and working. So
great, and greater access to data, live data, so that'll help us with our dashboards and so on. It's a good news story. Any comments? Yes, Sylvia.
Thank you. Well, really, it's, as you said at the beginning of this meeting, this meeting can appear to be dry, but covers some very important things, and nothing can be more important really than this for you as an organisation. And I think you can't overstate how important it's going to be to the better running of the organisation, how much that benefits all the constituent districts. And also, you can't overstate how incredible it is that you have, as an organisation, managed to procure and implement it with so little real difficulty, because we all know from examples further south how big systems can go horribly wrong and can absolutely wreck an organisation. So I think it's brilliant, and it will be brilliant not just for you but for us as well.
Sylvia, thank you for that positive comment, and I couldn't agree more. It was incredibly difficult for colleagues to learn new systems. And we've seen, haven't we, around the country where investment in IT systems can, like you say, completely drag down local authorities and organisations. So congratulations to the team, and we all look forward to using it for that more fleet of foot, agile organisation that can be more immediate in responses. Thank you. Okay, so we're happy to note the progress on the implementation of CI anyway. Good stuff, thank you. Moving on to item 8, review of the Chief Executive's salary. I'm very pleased to introduce the paper which presents recommendations of the Independent Remuneration Panel regarding the remuneration of the Chief Executive. This paper encompasses the outcomes of their review, highlighting the significant evolution and growth of our organisation, the establishment of the Chief Executive role, and the extensive growth in responsibilities, along with the considerations leading to the proposed salary reset. Alan, if you may summarise, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mayor. So, as the Mayor said, the decision of the Chief Executive salary is a matter for members, hence why it's coming in front of this committee. The Chief Exec salary was set in 2016, and since then has been subject to cost of living adjustments, but otherwise has not been reviewed. And the case for changing the salary is set out in the report from the Independent Remuneration Panel, which has been published publicly. So everything is completely transparent. The case made in the report sets out, if I might summarise, the increase in responsibility, so the size of the budget of the organisation going up from around $250,000. The figure that the IRP have is this year's budget figure. Actually, next year the budget of the CA is £868 million in 1 year. So So it's a very significant growth in the scale of responsibility, the scale of investment that the organisation is responsible for. The second thing is in line with that increase in budget, there's been a consummate increase in the number of staff in the organisation. So it's gone up from around 450 to around 820 today. The next thing is that the nature of the organisation has changed. So in 2016, when the head of paid service role was created, there was no devolution deal, there was no mayor. So the nature of the role in terms of becoming a mayoral combined authority is different than it was in 2016. And then finally, the independent remuneration panel have benchmarked against what they consider to be the nearest comparable combined authorities. So they considered a range of other similar roles in the public sector, including local authority chief executives and chief executives in the health service. They discounted both of those because they're not directly comparable. What they did feel was comparable was the salaries of the other similar combined authorities. So they looked at the salaries of the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, the West Midlands Combined Authority, and the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. And they have made a recommendation to you that the salary is set at £193,000 a year, which sets it broadly at the midpoint of those authorities. And also to make that, the recommendation to you is they considered, because clearly these changes that I've just described have happened over a period of time. So they considered a range of effective dates, including the 12th of May 2021, and other dates as well. And they have concluded a recommendation that this becomes effective from the 1st of October 2023, so last October. And the reason for that is the date at which the pay scales for all other CA employees changed, which was as part of the new modernised terms and conditions, which have since been agreed and which the rest of which came into effect on the 1st of January. So, in summary, the recommendation from the Independent Remuneration Panel to the committee is to set the salary at £193,000 a year, effective from the 1st of October 2023, and then to delegate to me all necessary actions that are required to implement that decision.
Thank you. And I'm pleased that it's come to this committee because, as Mayor, I want to be the most transparent organisation in the country. So, any comments? Yes, Jocelyn.
Can you clarify the consequences for the rest of the senior management team and differentials? Is their pay increase just as part of collective agreement, or is this now going to be reviewed as well?
So the pay scales for all of the other members of the combined authority, including the rest of the senior team, were set in back in October. So that has already happened. So there is no impact of this decision on the salaries of anybody else at the combined authority. In terms of future years, we currently negotiate as part of what's called the Passenger Transport Forum collectively with a number of other authorities, and those negotiations happen on an annual basis, and that applies to the result of that applies to everybody in the combined authority. But to answer the question directly, this decision has no impact on the salaries of anybody else within the combined authority.
James.
Thank you. It's good to hear from Alan about the Passenger Transport Executive Group and engagement with trade unions around this. I think we've got a very, I think we all recognise the change in the organisation set out in the report since the post was created, and a clear recommendation for the Independent Remuneration Panel have done a lot of work on our behalf on this. So I'm really pleased to support this today.
Thank you so much, James. Any other further comments? Wonderful, thank you. And so are members in agreement with the recommendation from the IRP as set out in paragraph 2.20 of the report and with the recommendation at 10.2? We are, thank you. In addition, can I also seek the agreement of the committee to delegate authority to the Chief Operating Officer to implement the committee's decision? Thank you. So the committee approves the recommendation that the remuneration of the Chief Executive should be reset in line with the proposal in the report implemented from the 1st of October 23, and that the Chief Executive should continue to receive the annual cost of living revisions to salary and allowances in line with all other employees of the combined authority. Thank you so much, colleagues. So moving on to the end of the meeting and the date of the next meeting. Obviously, we are coming up to my election, May the 2nd. So there is a bit of a hiatus until hopefully the good people of West Yorkshire will see that I've delivered some things that they're happy with, and that I will come back and continue my transformative plan for the region. So the next meeting is in June, subject to the approval of the proposed calendar of meetings 24-25. Thank you all so much. This meeting is now closed.